Okay, we are going to look at something very different today. We want to see or to study that man is what he thinks. You become what you think. You know, we are all created by God, and God is still creating us. And we have a soul, and through that soul, or that soul has a power in itself. Just like the seed, when you look at the seed, let us take, for example, the seed of maize. That seed in itself has every property of a maize. That maize that we see afterward, all is in that seed. All is in that seed. And when that seed is given proper nutrition, it's going to give out exactly what it is in it. So man also is a seed of God, or is a seed from God. And through the proper cultivation of that soul, man is going to be in accordance with that seed. So we are going to see how man can make himself. So here, the first thing we want to see out of the soul is what we call imaginations. Imagination springs from desire. And as man may have good or evil desire, likewise, he may have good or an evil imagination. We have what we call imagination or desire. We have the desire of what we want. Every person has a desire. Because even from the time a child starts crawling, there is always a desire what it wants. And that's why we put something in front of a child, because it wants that something, it is going to go there. There is a desire in that child which has started growing, which is going to grow together with that child until he or she becomes what is in her or in that seed. So here, as we have seen, imagination springs from desire. And as man may have good or evil desire, likewise, he may have good or an evil imagination. A strong desire of either kind will give rise to a strong imagination. So our imagination is going to be controlled by our desire. A strong desire is going to give a strong imagination. So, curses as well as blessing will only be effective if they come from the heart. There is nothing that we desire. When we say the heart is where our inclination is directed. Our heart can be directed either to good or evil. Our heart can be directed either to good or evil. So, through our imaginations, as we are going to see, we might either our imaginations are going to be good or evil. Those things, they go together. So, nothing can come out of the sphere of the mind except what is drawn into it. And that which is drawn into it may come out. So our mind, in order for it to act, when we say our mind, we mean in order for this mind, our mind to act, it must receive, and what it receives, it is going to work out. It is going to draw what our mind is going to draw, then it is going to work out what it has drawn. Yale our mind imeona na through imagination has been accumulated in our mind. The same ndio itafanya nini? Ndio itakuwa acted upon. Sawa? So, the imagination of, for example, when we come to imaginations, we have different categories. Kuna wale we imagine more, the imagination are very strong, especially the imaginations of women are stronger than that of men. The imagination of women are stronger than that of men. They are more passionate, stronger in love. Women are stronger in love and stronger still in hate. Unaona pale? Yeah. Women are stronger in love, at the same time they are stronger in hate. Women love very easily. And then they hate very easily. They hate very easily. And the imagination may carry them during their sleep to other places. In kusema, wow, the imagination are so strong, na sana sana, they dreams a lot. Women, they dream a lot. Sitaki kuingia kwa upande ya dreams, maana tutakuja kuona those dream vile zinakaa. But we are dealing with imaginations. Because of their imaginations, they dream more. They imagine a lot. They are very strong in imagination than men. Sawa? So, as we have seen, our mind, what it draws is what it's going to give out. If we do not think that which we speak, our word will be empty talk. Because first, we draw out, we draw in, then, because it is in our mind, we think. Then, we speak. We speak. Sawa? So, if we do not think what we speak, our word will be empty. And that's why the mind, our mind must be learned, must be educated first. And that's when you speak, you will speak something that is, that can cultivate something good. But when you don't think, and then you speak empty words. You speak empty words, as we are going to see. I'm just giving you an outline. Ndio tuone. He who thinks many things disperses his own power in many directions. He who thinks only one thing is powerful. here we want to say our mind must, if we want to be strong in our thinking, our mind must only be directed unto one direction. But mankind, because of the fall, his thinking or his mind is directed to many directions. That's why our thinking is very weak. Manake, we direct our minds into many things. We don't take one line. We don't think of one direction. If we think of one direction, we are going to see why the modern way Christianity has failed to have what we call the power of God in their life. Because they have failed to know. They have taken the world, and they think widely, many things. They don't have a direction. They don't condition their mind into one direction, which means their thinking is dispersed and it becomes very weak. Very weak. And that's why they can have no power to do miracles. Sasawa. So, in that sense, you must know, or we must know, that fear, terror, passion, desire, joy, and envy are 6 states of the mind which especially rule the imagination and consequently the world of man. That is fear, terror, passion. You know, passions are those affections that drive us and what we want. Desire of what we want. Then joy, furaha, and envy. These are things that control or rule the imagination and consequently the world of man. Kwa sababu hizi ndio determine what you are going to, ama your imagination, what you are going to imagine, they are going to be determined by these 6, as we are going to see. Sasawa. So, as the mind of man is microscopic counterpart of the universal mind, the antitype of this state are also active in the imagination of the world, and the thought of man act upon the latter, as the latter act upon the man. Look here. The universe, we call it macrocosm. The mind of man, when you say macrocosm, we are talking about the mind of the universe. When we say microcosm, we mean the mind of man. The mind of man. Sasa hapo nataka kusema our mind is a part of this universal mind. Ni kusema universal mind, it is a mind of God. Is a mind of God. And man is a part of that God. So, our mind is a part of that mind of God. That is the universe. But then, being a part of universe, we ourselves, as human beings, we are supposed, in order to be ideal, to work in tandem with this universal mind of God. To work in fact, there is a way our mind is supposed to work directly in accordance with the mind of God. But due to our fallen nature, we cannot do that. There's always a mismatch. There's always a mismatch. And that's where evil comes in as we are going to see. Sasawa. So, in that sense, it is therefore desirable that we should govern our imagination and not allow it to run wild. That means, if our mind, the mind of God and our mind, the universal mind and our mind is supposed to be one. That's why we are supposed to condition our mind not to run wild. Because man, after the fall, he has no control of his mind. He has no control of his mind. That's why unakuta mtu anafikiria hii, kesho kutana naye anafikiria hii. That's why he thinks this way today, tomorrow unakuta tena anafikiria hii. Yani his mind has no direction. It has no control. Kwa hivyo, his imagination runs wild. That's why unaweza kuta mtu anakuambia, leo mkikutana na yeye, anakuambia nafikiria kufanya hivi. Another time mkikutana na yeye, nimeona hapana, hii ndio inawezekana. We don't have control of our imagination. We run wild. Kusema we have no control, which means we don't go in line with the universal mind of God. And that's why you see Christ had to come in to help us in order to shape our mind to work with the mind of God. Sawa? So hapa tunasema namna gani? Let us first understand man. Man is a twofold being. You want to see why yeye uanga naenda haphazardly. Imagination zake uanga zina hover all over. And he is not in one piece. One thing, man is a twofold being, having divine and animal nature. We have divine and animal nature. And that's why when God created man, he took the earth or the soil and then the breath of life. The breath of life is divine. But our bodily nature is earthly. So we have true nature in us. If he feels and thinks, if this man feels and thinks and act as divine being should act, he is a true man. Sasawa. If he feels and think and act as a divine being should act, he is a true man. And that's why Christ himself is man but God. And that's why Christ is the only true man. Because he thinks and acts as God himself. He's a true man because Christ was man. He was a son of man. And yet he was God. As you are going to see in the future, you see man is supposed to be like Christ himself. That's why Christ came to show us the way. So if he feels and acts like an animal, he is then an animal. You see now, if he feels and thinks and acts as divine being should act, he is a true man. If he feels and acts like an animal, he is then an animal. And the equal of this animal whose mental characteristics are manifested in him. He is an equal to that animal. That's why you see man without understanding is like a beast. That's the word of God in Asema. Because he acts like an animal. He is drawn by bodily desire, just like an animal. He wants to eat, to fill his stomach, just like any other animal. But when you come to the word of God, which is where the divine of God is going to be found, he is not interested. Sasawa. So, an exalted imagination caused by a desire for the good raises him up. You see now here, comes the point. He has two nature. If he is going to have a desire, which is going to exalt him, and exalted imaginations for good, that desire is going to raise him up unto divinity. He has imagination. That's why I have said imagination is the one which makes man to be what he is. A low imagination caused by a desire for that which is low and vulgar drags him down and degrades him. A low imagination. And when we say a low imagination, anything that is worldly, is a low imagination. Anything that raises our imagination unto divinity is high imagination. Kwa hivyo sasa, this imagination inategemea na nani? Inategemea na nani? Na wewe. Because if you want to be low, if you have low imagination, then you are going to degrade, to downgrade yourself. Because you will go on the side of animal. You will be like an animal. Because that's what your imagination is. Because being worldly is working for the flesh. Sasawa. But when you think in a divine way, you are aspiring to be like angels. Sasawa. So, the spirit is a master. Imagination, the tool. The spirit is the master, imagination, the tool. And the body is the material or plastic material. Here we have the spirit is the master. Because imagination is the tool. But what about this imagination? Which power is controlling your imagination? It is the spirit. And when we say the spirit here, the spirit can be of two purposes, of two nature, as we are going to see. The body is just a material. It is just going to follow. Mwili, hakuna kitu ambaye, it has no power. It is just going to follow your imagination. Imagination is the power by which we will form sidereal entities out of thoughts. That means imagination is a power that through imaginations you are going to form some powers in you. Your imaginations, because your imaginations goes hand in hand with your thoughts. Out of what you are going to imagine, you are going to produce some powers wewe mwenyewe which are going to control you. It is you who is going to produce those powers because they are imagination. And imagination is power. Ujue, you have a power. Wewe mwenyewe, you have a power. Now what you are going to imagine, you can imagine things that are going to control you in your life. Because you imagine things and you create some power in you through your own imaginations, which are going to control you. Sasawa. Imagination is not fancy, which latter is the cornerstone of superstition and foolishness. So, the imagination of man becomes pregnant through desire and gives birth to deeds. Kwa hivyo nikumaanisha, the imagination of man becomes pregnant through desire. Because you desire, when you are desiring, then when you desire something, your imagination goes together with your desiring. Your imagination goes together with your desiring. You imagine, you desire, then what you desire, you start imagining, gaining that you are desiring to. That's why, if you are a carnal person, you are going to get what you want. Unaona kuna watu wanasema mimi nilitafuta na nikapata ile kitu nilikuwa nataka. Even in this world, because of their desire. They desire something, then they imagine that they have gotten that something. Na wanafanya nini? Wanaipata. Tujue hivyo. Sawa. Everyone may regulate and educate his imagination. Sasa hapo tunataka tuone. Because utakuja kuona hii imagination, if somebody can imagine on something and desire it and get it, also you can even, through your thoughts, you can even desire things which are not good to you, which are going to deter your life or your pure life. Na ni wewe mwenyewe umedesire them. So everyone may regulate and educate his imagination so as to come thereby into contact with the spirits and be taught by them. Sasawa. Spirit desiring to act upon man, act upon his imagination. So here, when we say spirit, we mean in astral plane, we have many spirits. We have many spirits. And these spirits, through your own imaginations, there are some which are going to be on your side, or some which are going to be against you. It depends on your imaginations. You cannot even get support from evil spirit without your knowing. Because when you say spirit, at any one time, we have good and evil spirit. So your imagination is a power, and this power in you can be supported by those two spirits, which you yourself, you don't see, but they are there. So depending on your imagination and your power where you want, you can have support of those spirits. So when we say everyone may regulate and educate his imagination so as to come thereby into contact with the spirits and be taught by them. You see, when you regulate your imaginations unto good causes, the only help you are going to get help of the good spirit. You are going to get help of the good spirit. But when you don't regulate your imaginations, you think haphazardly, you are also going to get help from the evil spirit. They are going to help you to attain your evil desire. That's why you find many people, they do something, they say, I don't know how yani nilikuwa nimesema sitafanya hivi, but how I have done it, I don't know. Sasawa. Spirit desiring to act upon man, act upon his imagination. Spirits desiring to act upon man, act upon his imagination. Sasawa. Yes. And they therefore make often use of his dreams for the purpose of acting upon him. Those are the spirit. Sasawa. Even physical sight depends on the imagination. If we behold an object, it is not scientific to say, I see, but you want to say, I imagine to see. Because, you know, when we say, spirit desiring to act upon man, act upon his imaginations, and they therefore make often use of his dreams for the purpose of acting upon him, hiyo ni kusema namna gani? Ni kusema, wewe, in your lifetime, the side you have decided to be, don't forget, you have given power to those invisible spirits to be acting upon you. And truly, they are going to act. They will be acting even during sleep. Hata wakati umelala, zitakuwa zinafanya kazi ndani, yani zinafanya kazi na wewe. During sleep, the side real or astral man may be the power of the imagination be sent out of the physical form at a distance to act for some purpose. Unakuta ndio hapo unakuta hata wakati mtu amelala unaweza hata tumika na those spirit na hata zinafanya kazi na wewe bila wewe hata wewe kuelewa what is happening. Kwa sababu no place is too far from imagination to go. And the imagination of one man may impress that of another wherever it reaches. Kwa hivyo nikosema imagination inaweza kwenda mbali sana na inaweza hata fanya mambo mengi sana. So wewe ujue wakati your imaginations goes haywire, you think mambo ambaye is not in one mind ama with the mind, the universal mind of God, wewe your help utakuja yani kukuta you are being helped by the other spirit ambaye they shall be pulling you back all the time through your own imaginations. Manake they are your help in a way that you do not understand. So imagination is the beginning of the corpus of a form, and it guides the process of its growth. Kwa hivyo imagination is the one ndio uanzia a form to create something in you or something that is supposed to be visible. All these, when you say a corpus, it means something, a form, yani kitu ambaye kinaweza kuwa na nguvu. Na hii kitu, it not necessarily invisible. It can be even invisible. Na ndio utakuja kuona vile wachawi wanatumia imaginations. Paka they form a power. Ambaye hii power, he can imagine it na inakuja na inakudhuru. Hakuna mambo mengine wanatumianga, ni hizo imaginations. Na because they are imagining something evil towards you, utakuja, they form a power, na hiyo power itakuja ikufikie. Na ni kuimagine. Na hakuna, there is nothing watatumia pale, ni just the power of imaginations. Because they are strong. So the will is a dissolving power. The will is a dissolving power which enables the body to become impregnated by the tincture of the imaginations. So hapa naye the will inakuja. Imagination is the beginning of the corpus of form, and it guides the process of its growth. But the will is the dissolving power. You know, wewe unaweza kuwa your imagination imeform something in you ambaye which is not something good, and because you are a child of God and you have seen our thoughts are many and you cannot sometimes control your thoughts, and through those thoughts your imaginations is running wild. So because you can produce some power which you don't desire, those powers, it can only be dissolved by your will. What is your will? What is your will? What do you want? Nini ambaye unataka? Because if your will is going to be strong, then you are going to defeat all those evil powers which is around you, which has been created by your own imagination. So your will, if it's going to be strong, you are going to break those powers. You are going to break them. Because your will, you want this and you want to be this. So your will is a dissolving power. He who wants to know how a man can unite his power of imagination with the power of the imagination of heaven must know by what process this may be done. How are you going to unite your willpower with the will of heaven? Ndio uwe free of those powers which are produced by your evil imaginations, because your imagination those goes wild. That means we create our own cocoon of power by our own imagination. Sisi wenyewe ndio wanga tunajifunga. Hivyo ndio binadamu hajui. Wewe mwenyewe ndio unajitengenezea, hata pahali umeshikwa, wewe mwenyewe ndio umejitengenezea wewe mwenyewe. Ni kwa sababu your willpower, you are not using your willpower to break that power which is surrounding you. Sio kama tunaelewana? You have created that evil power around you. Kwa hivyo your willpower is the only one which can dissolve that. That's the only one which can dissolve that. So he who wants to know how a man can unite his power of imagination with the power of the imagination of heaven must know by what process this may be done. A man comes into a position of creative power by uniting his own mind with the universal mind. That's the only time you can break this imagination, these evil imaginations, this power which surrounds you, which is not good. A man comes into a position of creative power by uniting his own mind with the universal mind. And he who succeeds in doing so will be in possession of the highest possible wisdom. Na hapo ndio sasa wisdom inaingilia. Yule ambaye ana succeed through the power of his willpower to break that corpus ambaye imetengenezwa na his yani those spirit ambaye zina surround yeye zimetengenezwa by his own imagination. You know, when you say a spirit, even friends, wakati una imagine a friend ambaye uwaga mnafurahia naye mambo ambaye mnafanya, yani wewe mwenyewe you feel obligated to that person. Ushai kuona unaenda kwa mtu anakuambia yani sukuje, unashindwa kumwambia hapana. There is a power ambaye ni kana kwamba kuna kitu imeunite wewe na yeye. Na hata kukataa unafanya nini? Unashindwa. People have never known. So hapa ndio unasikia sasa, it's only the willpower that can break that. Because sio rahisi. Because through your imagination ni kana kwamba huyu mtu anaona ni rafiki yako, sasa nikimwambia atafikiria sijui namna gani, and you feel that you can even do something that truly you don't want to please that person. You can do that. Because through your imagination, you have built a power to yourself. And that power is going to control you. Na sio yule amejenga, ni nani? Ni wewe. Wewe mwenyewe through your own imagination and thoughts. And that's why you don't even want to break it. That's why it can drag you and drag you, na hata watu wengine na waingiza katika shida mingi sana. Na that's why unakuta peer pressure ama marafiki wamefanya watu wengi sana waagamia katika hii dunia. They don't even understand why. Ni kwa sababu wamejitengenezea a power ambayo ina control wao outside their own power. Na hiyo power kwa sababu ni wao wenyewe wamecreate, hawezi kutoka kwake unless by grace of God wajue through the willpower washinde that power. Sawa? So the lower realm of nature will be subject to him, and the powers of heaven will aid him, because heaven is a servant of wisdom. Yani his willpower akisimama na the willpower aseme hapana, the lower realm of nature will be subject unto him. Ni kusema the lower realm of nature will be subject to him. Why? Because man was created to be the lord of nature. Nothing was supposed to rule man. All our faculties, all our body was supposed to be under the mind of God. Even the power of the stars. Even the power of all universe. That's why man is the lord of nature. He's the utopia. Nothing was supposed to be above man. But when he fell, he came under the power of the stars. That's why he is fed by the stars. That's why we eat food that are grown in this world. And we were supposed to be like angels. Food from heaven. So, because of that, our will was taken by the lower part of our nature. The lower part of our nature rule us. And this lower part of nature, there is what we call, together with elemental spirits. These spirits are the one which rule man in this world. So, when his willpower unites with the will of God, the lower realm of will, the lower realm of nature will be subject to him. Ni kusema yeye atakuwa above his nature. Atakuwa above. Sasa your body no longer is going to control you anymore. Haita control wewe sasa. Utakuwa above it. And that your lower nature itakuwa subject kwako. Na wakati utaikonga hivyo, that is, and the powers of heaven will aid him. Because heaven is the servant of wisdom. You see, heaven is the servant of wisdom. Because the power of God will aid him. And because you have shown your will, you will be aided. And that's why, unasikia, in Christ Jesus, we are more than conquerors. We are more than conquerors. It's only that we don't know. So before man is born, and afterwards, his soul is not perfect, but it may be perfected through the power of the will. Kwa hivyo, our soul is not perfected when we are born in this world, because we are born under the power of this lower nature. But through our own willpower, our soul may be perfected in this world. Sasawa? So those are the things that we need to understand, because as men, we fail to overcome because we don't understand ourselves. This, however, no man can do by exercising his own self-will, but it is accomplished by the divine will in him, to which must surrender himself. By your own power, you cannot accomplish it. It's only the divine will in you. And some people say, how will I know that I have the divine will? No. We have all the power. Man, by nature, he has the power. Only they are latent in him. They lie latent. We don't want to use them. We don't want to use those power. That's the only thing that's the only thing. Hatutaki kutumia nini? Kutumia nguvu ile tuko naye. Kwa kweli hatutaki kutumia nguvu. Man, if you want to do everything you want to do, ambaye na please yeye, he has the power to do it. And that power, if you can do what you want to do, then means, if you cannot do what you ought not to do, it is you who do not want to do it. Wewe mwenyewe ndio utaki. Because you have power to do your own things, but you don't have power to do otherwise, which doesn't please you. Hapo sasa uwaga tunajidanganya. You also have that power in you. It's only you have been overcome by those power which you have created in yourself that you feel you cannot. But you can. Because that divine nature is, it is in every man. Because we all came from God. At least we cannot say that completely that a man has not even an inch of that nature of God in him. We have it. We have that power in us. It's only that we don't want to do it. Sasawa. So, when we say the power of the will, the power of the will. This power of the will is what we call, in another language, faith.